Ollie, Ollie, Oxenfree. A phrase that I'd heard, perhaps through media, but not so much in real life growing up. I think it is more an American phrase. But I didn't know what it meant for years, really until a few weeks ago. Because, like I say, it's not something I really heard. I just knew it had something to do with games like hide and seek, and that was about it. But in doing some research, I've actually learned a bit more about it, and it seems to be a change over time of a phrase along the lines of all the outs in free, which, if you say them close together, you can see how it could have been sort of altered over time. But what does it mean? What does that mean, all the outs in free? Well, in the context of a hiding game, those who are still out in the playing field, all the outs, people still hiding, are now free to come out of hiding. The game has changed. We've either reset, we've changed sides, if applicable, or simply the game's over, we're done. Just come out and we'll just go home or go and play something else. It's basically, it's one of those ideas, whatever suits the situation. So when I came across the game, Oxenfree, not knowing what that phrase meant, I think made it much more of a unknown quantity. I think if you have grown up with that phrase, you may have got an inkling of what might happen. But it really does come into play later in the game, that idea. But we'll get to that in time. So it starts out with a group of kids catching a ferry to this island to go to like some kind of party that they do, like a big blowout. And it's a great way to start. We just get introduced to these core characters. We have Alex, who, as we learn later on, lost her brother Michael through a horrible accident. We have Ren, who's kind of just the stoner, fun guy. He's the one kind of spearheading this whole idea, of going out to the island. And Jonas, who apparently has joined Alex's family as a stepbrother after the loss of, her actual brother. And yeah, we're given the idea that they're going to meet some people over there, one of whom Ren's got a thing for, Nona, and Clarissa, who is very much a difficult person to like, at least for me. And that's another thing I want to talk about with this game. This idea of me not liking Clarissa. There is a Telltale style element to this game. Because in Telltale games, you'll have like conversation choices that people will mentally log, if you will. Their AI will keep hold of that information. And, at the end of the game, same with like Life is Strange kind of stuff as well. Sort of towards the end of the game, you'll have like, oh, this many people made this choice, and etc. And this does that. But it does it more organically than Telltale games do. The people in charge of this game really thought about how to make it a living world, not just a game. You will have conversations, but instead of like a timer sat there whilst everyone's really quiet, standing around for you to make a choice of what you're going to do, they'll be conversing, and you'll have like speech bubbles that crop up that correspond, if you're playing with a gamepad, correspond with like the buttons. I've not played it just using mouse and keyboard, so I don't know if how that works differently. But yeah, so you'll have those choices, but people will still be talking, and you can press it, and sometimes you'll interject and talk over them, or sometimes it'll wait for them to finish what bit of speech they're doing, and then you'll say it. And it's much more natural, it's much more flowing, it was much more engaging. I've tried to play Tales from the Borderlands, and I just found I couldn't get into it, I think because of that very mechanical way that it does it. But with this, I was gripped. I was like, I want more of the story. Please tell me what's going on. I'm enjoying this. Because I really didn't know what to expect. I knew there was a mystery and kids. That was it. But there's so many different choices you can make. You can skim or throw stones. You can't skim it into the ocean. You can sit and stoke the fire. Even like the pictures that are taken, like the photos, because every so often throughout the games people either take photos and selfies and stuff. Those can change depending on your choices. So yeah, like I say, me and Clarissa didn't get on very well, and the end of the game kind of worked out to that as well. But going through, I was constantly being surprised. I was like, is this aliens? You know, with the radio, I was like, what's the radio deal? What's all this about? But it becomes a very important part of the gameplay. And I was like, is this aliens or something? You know, I was like, but it was like, oh, it's like a ghost box. You know, it's like bits of radio signal making up the voices. So it's kind of like a ghost box that is often used in paranormal investigations. This is really interesting. You know, I was gripped. I did have to put it down at one point because I had to eat, and I was like, as soon as I finished eating, I was like, do I pick it straight back up? No. I'll give it a break. Let it sit for a bit. I really enjoyed that idea of the mechanic and keeping me guessing. And then it was like, okay, so it does seem to be ghosts, but these are angry ghosts. And you even get told, like, the tutorial, I guess, part of it to use the radio is so organic. It's like, hey, there's a, you know, like radio sort of tour guide thing on the island. Tune into it. So you learn about that organically. And of course, that first thing tells you about the submarine accident, which is the whole crux of this game. That's the whole thing that caused all these problems on this island. These angry spirits who just want to be released. And that's fascinating. The idea that, you know, these ghosts are out there kind of just trying to be liberated. You know, you find out that this strange, kooky, eccentric woman who's got this mansion on the edge of town was trying to help them as well, because she lost someone to them as well. But you make all these choices. You go and find, you know, sort of Ren, you find Clarissa, you have all these moments when people are being possessed, you have the things where everything turns upside down, and it's really, really difficult because your brain's like, hold on, so I want to go that way, hold on, I'm going the wrong way. That was really difficult. Like the hunting in the house, when it went all upside down, I just could not do that. My brain was not elastic enough to deal with that. But it all comes to this kind of point of these ghosts want liberating. They want the freedom. But throughout the game, you're given moments where things go a bit weird, and Alex sort of, through a reflective surface, there's like speech options that come up, but you can't choose them yourself, it seems. And they tell her things, so you go, okay. So you go back, sort of through it all, and then of course at the end, you're in control of those. Now you could change them, but I didn't. I was like, well, this is what I was told. Do I want to create a paradox? But the whole idea of the Oxenfree thing really comes in right at the end, because you get this whole thing of like, you know, oh, and this happened, and hey, we're going out to the island. You're like, wait a minute, we've just been to the island. All of a sudden, game over, restart. That's what it is. Now, I haven't played through multiple times because I was like, no, this is my choice. This is how I've done it. I've brought Michael back. To me, that's a good enough ending. I'm happy to leave it here. Obviously, if you guys think I should play more, if something, you know, sort of happens, if you constantly replay, if it gets better over time or whatever, you know, different things happen and you can sort of stack all these things, then obviously I'll go back to it. You know, just let me know if that's the case. But I was like, just this once was enough. You know, included with the game are like little interviews as well with people from the team, and it's just a great game. Not only about loss and misunderstandings, perhaps, but communication. The primary tool of the game is a radio, a communication tool. Through communication, you learn that Clarissa may be kind of difficult, but you can understand her. She's grieving. She lost Michael too. So it is very much about communication, and it's beautiful. But the art style, I do want to quickly say before we close out, Heather Gross does amazing work. Through this, I'm actually now following her on Twitter. I don't have Instagram, otherwise I'd probably do that as well. But she's such a great artist, and the fact that she was given full creative reign to do what she wanted. She did have to apparently make some things less subtle. She wanted to have it all nice and very sort of pastel-y and subtle. There's a great thing in the documentaries where she talks about it in detail. But it's just so great. You know, it was a game that I had heard about, but I'd never really ran to. I wasn't expecting to play it and get as much out of it, but I'm really glad I did. It was a very interesting experience for me, and I really did enjoy it, and I love the idea of it. You know, how it uses just a simple childhood phrase in a game to form a narrative around. So yeah, if you haven't played it, I definitely recommend hunting it out for yourself, having a go, seeing what you come up with. You know, will you save Michael? Will you be friends with Clarissa? Apparently some people managed it, I don't know how. But yeah, definitely have a look at it if you haven't. And if you have, why not give it another play? I might actually, now I'm thinking about it. But I do hope you've enjoyed this journey through Oxenfree and that you'll join me next time. But until then, as always, thanks for watching and take care.